stuff. There are two really separate issues here when you want to do climate change. One is what the hell's really going on, and people who are far cleverer than you and me can't agree on that. The other is how is all this being conveyed to the Australian public, and what impact is it having on policy making, which is what I have spent, 30-odd years of my life dealing with. And the short answer is it's being badly conveyed, and it is creating confusion, and confusion leads to poor policy making, and poor policy making eventually spins out in the form of stuff that doesn't really work and costs ridiculous sums of money, and then everybody gets hot and bothered and blames everyone else. And we've now, in Australia, we've now been playing this damn fool game for the best part of 12 years, or perhaps even longer than that. And the problem is, it's not getting better; it's getting worse. And at least part of it, as I said to you in my email, is that in another life, when journalists wrote something, and I'll stick to newspapers because that's the area I'm most familiar with. When journalists wrote something, sitting behind them were news editors and sub-editors and even more senior type people who turned around and said, well, before that's going through, can you answer this, can you answer that, where did you get that from? What's the other side of this? And by the time, I went through this as a journalist in the 1960s and imposed it on others as a news editor and all the rest of it. When the stuff came out the other end, it had what the Yorkshire mob call a bit of bottom. Yeah. It actually, things conveyed information that people could then learn something from. We now live in an environment where it's entirely possible. I do it myself. I sit here and I write This Is Power blog posts and press publish. And 1 minute it's only in Orchison's mind, and the next there are 2,000 people out there who log on to my site reading the opinion. And between the mind and the publication is sometimes only minutes. And I don't think, because of all of that, I don't think the system is working to our collective advantage. It just gets more shrill and all the rest of it.
You talk to any scientist, and they really, we've got several people at the university that we've talked to, and we've asked them about the journalist versus science issue, and they said, no, it's not journalists versus scientists. We all need to work together. And then you go on to ask them why they think it's not working and why the public has a certain view about climate change and whether it's reversible or not through the media. And they go back to a statistic that says 97% of scientists are agreed upon climate change. 3% aren't. But journalists are stuffing that up because they need to keep accountable, and they're trained to see two sides of the story. You know
why I'm laughing?
Yeah. Oh, tell me.
Once upon a time, there was a man called Galileo. He was the only scientist who believed the planets went round the sun. And there was universal, quote, scientific, unquote, view that he was wrong. And the Catholic Church did its absolute best to silence him, even threatening to kill him. And the famous Galileo quote, as he acknowledged that yes, he was wrong, was to mutter under his breath, "But still they move." And this is. I've worked in universities. I've worked with university scientists and other scientists, because not all scientists are in universities, for 4 decades. And there is no such a thing as a view settled by by the preponderance of scientific opinion. One of the huge modern examples of this was the now accepted view that the Earth is made up of tectonic plates that move. As late as the 1960s, that was heresy.
Yeah.
And yet, it's now accepted wisdom. So, when academics say things like that to me, and they have, I sneer at them, and they blush because they know damn well that this is not the case. The problem we've got with this is it's not that people are operating in bad faith. It's the very human failing of everybody's in love with their own work, and these people will produce stuff, and they then must for their own reputation's sake stand up and argue for it, and then everybody else is wrong. And this is, I have sat in innumerable university debates and over the years with academics, not just scientists, but academics slagging off at each other. It's the way that world works. At the end of the day, there is a situation where the stuff that comes out of the UN and elsewhere, there are dozens of models that are used or that are available at the point they're compiling a document. It's notorious that in that one in 2000 that threatened us with all sorts of terrible things, out of the, don't hold me to the numbers, but I think it was something like 24 models available, and 2 were used, which showed the extremes. And not only that, but the damned report then went out of the scientific sphere into the political sphere and was rewritten. It's how we came up at the end of the day with the Himalayan glaciers are all melting. Look. When it turned out it was written by somebody, that bit was written by somebody from one of
Greenpeace.
The environmental movements. When you pare all this stuff away, and I've had the opportunity to talk to some of the best brains in the business in regard to all this. When you pare all this away, there is no debate about the fact that the planetary climate is warming. It began warming 200-300 years ago as we moved out of the little ice age. And where it's going is a matter of fascinating debate, all in its own right. If we didn't do anything, it would go somewhere. The central issue here is human related carbon emissions making this a lot worse? If so, to what extent? And then can we do something about this that is economically viable for humanity around the world?
And have the media represented that well in any
No,
circumstance?
the media have represented it extraordinarily poorly, because what the media like doing is putting up continuously biff and bang. It's Bill and Ben stuff. Bill says yes, Ben says no more loudly. Bill says you're a fool, and it makes terrific television. It fits with the sort of newspaper stuff we get these days. As I said to you in that email I sent you, when the Melbourne Age can literally put shock and horror into a headline about power prices that involved a per-week increase for people in Victoria of 68 cents, then something's gone completely wrong with the way in which stuff is presented. And that's a real example from late last year. And no, I think the media's inclination, the cynical journalistic joke about all of this, and I'm sure you've heard it, is if it bleeds, it leads.